I'm here today with Dana Kaminstein and Barry Dornfeld talking about organizational diagnosis, Dynamics 628. So, Dana, if you could help me understand, why did you create this course?
Uh, the, um, the course has been part of the organizational dynamics program for 20 years. And so it's changed over time, as you can imagine. But the original impetus for the course, which is still current, is to help people understand in a more systematic way what's happening in the organizations they work in. Too often, when we have decisions to make or programs to develop or dilemmas to resolve, we don't take into account the assumptions that we have or the frames that we use, and we often end up with conclusions that are problematic. So the course is a way to help people think more deeply about what's going on and to collect some data about it. Bailey, what would you add to that?
Zach, what I'm excited about joining Dana and teaching this course is my background's as an anthropologist, and I've actually worked with Dana on a number of programs in which sort of really understanding how an organization works, the dynamics inside an organization has been critical to being successful in that organization. And a course like this that teaches students to understand the models of organizations, sort of the power dynamics, how decisions are made, how culture plays out, is so critical to being successful in an organization that I'm excited to work with students on this and to have them apply these ideas in their work.
So, why is that systems view so important when you're looking at challenges within an organization?
Oftentimes when there are challenges, organizations do a lot of scapegoating. They find an individual or a group to blame. And both Barry and I in our work consider it important to help people understand the multiple layers that go into creating a problem. So when you take a systems view, you're not just looking at an individual or a group, but you're looking at that individual in relation to the group or department they're part of, in relation to the larger system.
And I would add that organizations are really complex, and we sometimes don't stop to really understand that complexity. We get caught up in the challenge of the moment or a frustration we have or a relationship. But to have the skill and the tools to really step back and say, what do I need to do to really understand what's going on here from that systems perspective, as Dana said, from an organizational or group dynamics perspective, to have a theory and to help that diagnosis. We learn so much more about how we are working ourselves, but also what's going to make an organization successful, why it might be stuck in certain ways, what it needs to do to change and evolve and deal with the moment. So that ability to step back, reflect, and understand is so critical and so hard to find the time to do when you're in the thick of the work.
Sure, sure. So what else do you hope students take away from the course?
Well, the course is very practically oriented, so that we try everything that we talk about, we try to practice in the class and to illustrate so people have an idea. So for example, one of the main tools of finding out what's going on is to conduct interviews. So we actually have people practice doing interviews. Or observation is very important. So we do quite a number of practice observations. So we try, each thing that we do, we try to do in the class experientially so that people get a feel for what it's like. Barry?
The students in the Dynamics program are already, often well along in their careers. They have, a lot of experience, a lot of thought behind them. But to give them a set of tools to really understand what's going on in the organization, how can they intervene in ways either inside their own organization or if they're consulting and working with other organizations, to really understand what's at play in that particular organization, what is the culture, what are the power structures, and what are to bring a perspective to that's beyond just the individual player's perspective, but has a rigor and a kind of understanding that will help advance their organization. It is a really useful tool to take forward no matter what students go on to do.
Okay, that's great. Thank you. So how will students learn in the course environment this semester?
We do a lot of experiential learning, as I said, in terms of practicing. We do a minimum amount of lecturing, a lot of conversations and dialogue and breakout, film clips, and some two simulations, so that people are, and it's especially important when we're working virtually to engage people in ways where they're not just sitting on their couch listening and being bored. So we really make a huge effort to engage them in each piece of what we're doing.
And I think to build on that, the class is a kind of laboratory in its own right, because if we're looking at organizations and groups, of course, the course itself with us as members and the students is a group unto itself. So understanding how we're functioning as a group, sort of bringing that reflective lens on our own work. And then, we talked a little bit about this moment of COVID and the pandemic, and being sort of thrust into this remote way of working on Zoom, not being face-to-face at all right now, and we know that'll be with us for some time, and some new normal will evolve. Really understanding from the experience in the class, but also back to the experience that students are having in their own organizations. How is that changing the nature of work? How is it changing the nature of culture and organizations? It's having a big impact. We're just in the thick of it now, and maybe beginning to be able to step back and try to understand what is gained, what is lost by having to work in this virtual way. That'll be a fascinating thread, I think, through this course.
Great. Well, thank you both. I appreciate your time.
Great.
Thank you.
Thanks, Zach.
All right. Again, I'm talking with Dana Kaminstein and Barry Dornfeld about Dynamics 628, Organizational Diagnosis.